It's time again for the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast with Dr. John Dentico. The mission of our podcast is to provide 21st century leadership training for a talent-driven world. We help organizations implement strategies and practices designed to attract, hire, engage, and retain top talent while mitigating the effects of burnout. Our guests are experts in various fields of organizational dynamics, including, but not limited to, leadership, management, communication, and coaching. They bring a world of knowledge and solutions to our viewers and listeners. I am sincerely grateful for their participation and ideas. So let's dive in. And if you enjoy our podcast, please like, share, and subscribe. We genuinely appreciate your support. Hello, and welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. I am Dr. John Dentico, your host. This morning, my guest is Erin Andrea Craske. Erin is an award-winning strategist, author, and designer with a 20-year career culminating as global head of consumer brands. With expertise in strategic development, profitability, leadership, and communication, she's an ICF certified business and leadership success coach and business advisor. Leveraging 16 years of leadership, she empowers purpose-driven businesses and ethical business leaders to succeed on their terms and build a profitable business with less effort while amplifying a ripple effect of goodness. I am pleased and honored to have her with me here today. Hello, Erin. How are you this morning?
Hello, John. Fantastic to be here. Thank you so much.
Oh, welcome. I'm happy we could make this connection. Let me just start off this question. This morning I was thinking about this. Let me ask you this. If someone were to walk up to you and ask you for your perspective or your definition of leadership, something they could grasp onto, what would you tell them?
Oh, what a good question. Definitely unexpected. So, what would I say? Leadership for me, it's an opportunity to ignite people and to let them follow you willingly. So, it's about giving direction. It's about knowing, being sure in this direction. It's about having passion. It's about leading with integrity and giving example of how it can be done and behaving in such a manner that people follow you not only for what you do but for who you are. That's leadership to me.
Okay. So it's much more derived in the ability of the individual to create a united sense, a united cause between that person, the leader, and the other people. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Let me ask you this then. I hear this term authentic leadership kicked around a lot. I mean, you see a lot, there's books written on authentic leadership and different things like that. How do you characterize someone who's an authentic leader?
Typically, people would say that authentic leadership is about being true to your values, which is 100% correct, with the only definition or nuance that somebody who is not 100% true to their own values, but to the person that they created, the person they labeled themselves to be. So their value is going to be according to this person and this particular state of time. They're also going to be true to their values. So, for example, I don't know if you have a controlling leader and his value is to exercise control and authority because this is what he believes in, it's also going to be authentic because he's going to be living to his own values, correct? If your values control and you exercise it, so you're true to your values. So the only when you look at the definition of authenticity, usually there's one thing being added that you're not only true to your own values, but you also live purposely. So you're supposed to bring good and take care of other people. So that's what would define authenticity better. It's not only about you and being true to your values, but also about taking care of other people around you.
Okay.
That makes sense.
I've made this observation about a person I once knew who would tell me, a woman friend of mine, who once would tell me that when she went to work, she had to put on her game face. That, in a sense, she couldn't be the person I was looking at.
Yeah.
She had to be, in a sense, someone else, in a manner of speaking. And I always thought that really struck me because for me, I thought she was she could be the same person whether she was standing in front of me or at work. And I was often confused by that. Why do you need a game face? Why don't you just be yourself? So to me, that's what rings true for me in terms of an authentic leader. What do you think about that?
That is exactly what it is. But I guess the question is for me, you're supposed to be true to yourself, but the question is, are you true to yourself at the first place? Right? So when she put this game face and she goes to work and she leads people, she will be true to the person, to this role, to this face that she put on. Is she really true to herself, her real self, or to the person she wants to portray? And this, I believe, is a very tiny nuance in terms of authenticity. I explain where I'm coming from, right? Because I considered myself to be a good, authentic person all my life because it was easier for me to be authentic and to be honest than to play games. I just didn't want to, it's just too complicated. And then when I went through personal transformation and I found out who I really am, I realized that although that person was authentic and that person was a good person with good relationship with other people, or whatever you define good, with good values, it's still not who I am right now. So that person wasn't 100% me. And I was authentic to somebody who wasn't 100% me. Did I manage to explain it?
Yeah, that I think that's a very good explanation. I think we sometimes believe we have to be more than we are.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe there are times people think that's necessary. But we all go through different emotions. We experience different emotions and different thoughts all the time. And just being true to how you feel. People always talk, here's an example. People always talk about control your emotions, control your emotions. And the answer is no, no, don't control your emotions. Your emotions are your emotions. That's the truth. What you can control is how you react or how you respond to those emotions. That's where the real control comes in. You can feel anger. What do you do? Do you run around banging your head against the wall because you're so angry? Or do you just say, wait a minute, let me think about this for a few minutes. I'm angry. Oh, okay. But let me see how I'm going to respond to that. So I think the same thing is true is you're good enough the way you are. And you just have to bring you, in a sense, to the issues and to the problems.
John, there's a very interesting thing that you mentioned about controlling emotions or not controlling emotions. Because, again, they're different emotions. If you're experiencing anger, yes, probably it would be wise to find a more positive way of expressing it without doing any harm to anything or anybody around you. But at the same time, if you're experiencing something like sadness, do you really need to control it? Because in reality, every negative emotion that we experience is going to be settling in your body and it's not going to do you any good longer term. So my question is, do we really need to control emotions, or do we need to know which one we can express freely, which one we can, I don't know if I say manage, but express in a way that is not harming to other people? Because I'm not going to bang my head against the wall, but if I want to go and take a boxing class and banging somebody else's head, it may also work. So is the whole thing about emotion that I believe doesn't do much good to people, because there's so many things that we're not supposed to do that make us really unhealthy,
Yeah.
emotionally unhealthy from the self-esteem point of view, from insecurities point of view, because we're always going to be looking behind shoulder and see how will people react. We will never going to be ourselves. Is all we're concerned about is how other people going to react on our emotions.
I think even sadness, it's the idea that you feel the sadness, you feel it, and you try to move through it, as opposed to pushing it away and saying, I don't want to feel that. No, sometimes you have to feel it. You have to embrace it and then move
Always,
through it.
always.
I agree with that
And or
completely.
another thing, frustration, because it's not polite. It's not, you're not supposed to feel frustrated, but you know what? You are, and you feel frustrated. Accept it. There are different emotions, but the first thing is definitely accept that you're experiencing it and validate it. You have all rights to experience what you experience, and from this place, it's going to be much easier to release it.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. When I was a young naval officer, I worked for a very senior officer who used to
Yeah.
say, if you're not frustrated, you're not really trying.
That's a good one.
so so there you go. It just comes with the territory, it comes with the job. Anyway, let me ask you this. Let's move on and let me ask you this next question. If you were to list the number of issues on a consistent basis, clients coming to you with the same issue, the same problem, what are the, I don't know, one, two, or three of the most prevalent issues or problems that people bring to you?
All their problems and all their issues stem from two things. The first one is instant gratification, and we're being conditioned on getting something immediately. And the second one is an ability or lack of desire going deep and figuring out what's behind those issues that they talk about. So for me, the first one, it's always trying to get immediate earnings, and it's in business because it is a return of investment. For example, I want it now, I want to double in a month, and if I don't double it, I'm going to try something else, but I want this money back threefold. So all that is, all businesses are focused on getting earnings immediately without understanding the consequences of this approach, and the consequences are detrimental to a business because it just covers different areas, including customers and categories. And altogether, just thinking about it, when every time you invest into something and you don't get this return on investment, usually what you do, you start investing into something else because you keep on trying getting this money back. But what often happens, that throughout trying, you actually waste your resources without getting this return on investment that you expect to get in the first place. So your resources.
So
Mhm.
you're saying so that people have to become a bit more longer term oriented? Is
Oh,
that okay?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And another thing is that we're all trying to fix something on the surface. All, if you, that is just comes from all advertising and all videos that we hear, we're bombarded with all the time. The first one, you're going to be a millionaire overnight, right? Or six-figure business next month, right? That is the immediate gratification that I'm talking about. And another one is how to's, how to be that, how to do that, how to become a better leader, how to get more profit, how to attract your best customer, keep them loyal, right? And then we have loads and loads of surface level advice of how to do it better. And we start implementing without realizing that when there's no coherence, when there's no strategy or understanding way, why, and how, in which point of time you implement this advice, they're not going to work, because what you're going to do, again, you're going to be changing one advice with another one because they don't complement each other. That's the problem. You're trying to fix things that are scattered all over your business, and there's no coherence behind it. There's no holism in your business. because every stream is performing independently. So these two things create all issues that businesses face. But we don't want to look at the whys. We don't want to look at the long term root cause strategic approach. And we carry on doing what we carry on doing. That's it.
So, would it be fair to say that too often people are dealing with the symptoms of an issue and not the real underlying problems?
It's always and everywhere, starting from our healthcare. It's everywhere. It's all about how it is. It's all about how to get your best guy, on the first date. That's all about that. How to lose weight immediately, how to become healthy. But I guess we all know that if there is no why, even behind becoming healthy, you're not going to do it because there's no deep enough reason to do whatever or anything.
You
So
know,
this is why it's applicable to every area in our life, and all our society operates from house. Houses.
it's interesting. I say this all the time, but one of the best parts of this podcast is I learn more things than I knew going into it. So many of the guests have taught me so many things and opened my eyes to certain things. And what comes to mind in just listening to you in the last couple of minutes is we live in this culture of immediacy. Everything has got to be immediate. People don't want to put in the work, the
Yeah.
time it takes to really develop an effective response to whatever issues are facing them. And sometimes it takes months or years to achieve the things that you want to achieve. So very interesting. Very interesting. I appreciate that very much. Let
Yeah.
me let
Thank
me
you.
ask. Go ahead.
No, it just says thank you.
Okay. So let's jump off at that point. That was a good jumping off point. So let me ask you this question, piggyback on what you just said. Tell me a story of a client or organization that came to you with a significant issue or problem. We're looking for a specific here. Without naming names, could you describe the problem, your choice of intervention, what you did, how you helped them, and the outcome of the work that you did?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for asking. So, the most specific and totally unrelated issue that a client came to me with was team productivity. So, his perception of the issue was that the team wasn't productive enough, right? He didn't see them being engaged and motivated to this productivity and give all their best. So, the issue was with the team, obviously. And then we started talking, trying to understand how he leads his business, how he leads his team. And through conversation, through just asking questions, we figure out that actually he micromanages and he controls. Then he controls and micromanages because he doesn't feel secure in his role as a leader. From this insecurity comes another issue. He is not comfortable with making decisions and sticking to his decisions. So, from having the team that is not performing and has to be taken care of, through these questions, we came to the fact that actually we need to work on his perception of himself in his role of a leader. Because together with that, as many companies do, they believe that their profit gonna come from innovation. So innovation become really the focal point of every organization, which isn't quite true that it works as they think it does. But obviously, innovation wasn't the part of organization culture either. So if you look at all that we discussed, and that somebody who was a leader in a team, he was suffocating the team, that team were overloaded with micromanagement because you don't need to have ever too many responsibilities if you're micromanaged. Even a few ones are going to be enough to just get you to close to quitting. So from this place, you have obviously no motivation, you have no engagement, you have no innovation or creativity. because innovation creativity doesn't grow in this space where people don't feel comfortable or safe. And then obviously decision making was another thing, because if you can't stick to your decision, if you're easily influenced, you don't know what you decide, but you try something here and there, that you just drive your team to burnout, because every time they have to follow you another decision that you're not sure about. So the problem wasn't with the team, the problem was with him, as it often happens in leadership. So that's how it worked. And we did this approach of looking at his self concept, how he perceives himself, how he believes a leader should be, where discrepancies, where this belief of how the leader is supposed to be comes from, whether it's healthy. Because if you believe that leader is authority, but you don't feel like authority, my question is, this authority thing, is it really true that it must be this way, or can you build it in a different way? Just being yourself and letting people enjoy the human being that you are, and then accepting you for who you are ultimately. Will it probably create a better, healthy ambience in the workplace? And so we worked on a redefinition of his concept and acceptance, and getting rid of everything that would make him feel limited, because he's not. Nobody is. Everybody is capable and everybody is confident. So remove all these beliefs and all this thing that we create that reduce our confidence and our belief in ourselves. This is what we had to do. So he could emerge a different person.
And how did that work out for him? Did he make the changes?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because he didn't need to look back anymore. He didn't need to feel insecure. He could be himself. And besides, because that is authenticity that we talked about earlier. So when you come to this place of self-acceptance, authenticity, not only your relationship in the workplace going to improve, but also in your personal life will also. Probably not going to be perfect because it's different type of coaching, but in reality, when you feel more in comfort with yourself, in peace with yourself, you can come and you can work and lead people from a different place. That is all that needs to be done.
What's interesting, I had another guest, we talked about vulnerability, the
Yeah,
ability of a leader to be vulnerable,
yeah,
where the person can say, the leader can say, you know what, this is nobody's fault but mine. It's on me. I did not give clear enough directions. I'll take the hit here for this. And and any time that I've done that in the past, where I've stood up and said, "Hey, it's me. It's nobody else here." What I found so interesting, and it happened every time, was that people gathered around me and said, "Hey, listen, it could happen to anybody. Oh, yeah, don't worry about it. We'll fix it. We'll get through it. We're all in this together."
yeah,
And the vulnerability opened an opportunity for them to gather around and say, and show support and help me in those times. I think it's so important, and people are so afraid to show just a small amount of vulnerability that says, I'm a human being and I make mistakes. And you know what? Let's figure out what went wrong and let's move on from this and see how we can make things better.
yeah.
So I truly appreciate that your perspective on that. And,
Thank you.
anything else you want to add to that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. There are two things I would like to add. So the first one, there's no such thing as a mistake. There's always an opportunity to learn, right? So even if you accept that you made a mistake, doesn't any longer count, as long as you say, guys, I'm ready to rectify it. I'm ready to correct it. Obviously, I didn't do it right by myself. Can I just collectively pick up your brain and we do something together? So not only you apologize for your mistakes, but you offer immediate correction and you engage people so they know they're part of these corrective actions and you trust them to correct it, even though it was your mess up. So that's one thing. And another thing that very often people don't realize, that vulnerability is only for strong people. It is a strength. You must be strong to allow yourself to be vulnerable, because it's the only a strong person that can be themselves again without thinking about what other people think or how they perceive them. That's a sign of stress. When you can be yourself, it's not a weakness.
I would absolutely agree with that. I want to ask one final question. It's a little different question than the one that I had thought of asking you. So I just want to see where you are on this. I recently turned my attention to the issue of burnout.
Yeah.
And part of the issue concerning, it's part of this issue of hiring and retaining top talent, trying to find the best people for the
Hmm.
job. And I have a colleague, Michael Millward, in the UK,
I know
and
him. I was on his podcast. He's wonderful.
he's wonderful, great guy, wonderful
Yeah.
Michael. Michael's a wonderful guy. And we had been talking about this, and I was curious to say, Michael, this is the stuff we're experiencing here in the US. Is it the same in the UK? He said, oh, absolutely. Absolutely saying we're looking for talent. It's people are burning out and all these different things. And we have these wonderful discussions about it. I guess the question I want to ask you is from your perspective, how often do you come face to face with the issue of burnout? And if you have dealt with that, what kind of remedies do you recommend for people to do to engage in order to mitigate this effect of burnout?
Oh, that's fantastic. I didn't come across a burnout with my clients because usually, and thanks God, we kind of stop at the stress level because I work with business leaders. So, burnout, unfortunately, is something that teams most suffer from. So stress up upstairs and burnout downstairs. So that's how it works. So yeah, stress definitely. Everybody that I worked with had more or less stress in their life or business life. With regards to teams, you know what? I have only one solution. If you work for organization where you experience burnout, quit. I do not believe personally that you can change a company culture from the mid level employees or mid level management. I don't believe it. I believe the culture is cascaded from the top. It doesn't really matter how much I try to do in my place as employee, if the whole culture, the tone that's set for organization is like that, unfortunately, I'm powerless. That's my perception. Maybe wrong, but it's my 20 years experience, right, in the big organizations. So this is why the best solution is to quit. Or if you don't quit, be aware of the consequences. It is your choice. You're always free to make your choice, whatever it is. But every decision and every choice is coming with consequences as long as you're aware.
Point well taken, and thank you for that very honest answer. It was point blank, and I think people need to come to grips with that. There may be no way back. There may be a situation that you find yourself in that can't be remedied. And the interesting part of that is again, it cycles right back into hiring and retention. And if a company, an organization can't retain people because the culture is toxic or and people are just getting burned out, then that organization has to suffer the consequences too. That again, the turnover is high. And as one of my prior guests, Jimmy Burrows, pointed out to me that an organization could be burned out. And it, like you said, it's just cascading down into the folks, into the people that work there. And one of the ways you can tell an organization is burned out is when you have very high turnover, or people are having accidents, or they're using employee assistance programs at a higher rate. So it's a very honest response that sometimes people want to soldier on. They don't want to be quitters. They want to do the best that they possibly can. But there comes a time as that you have to sit back and say, I have to do something here or I'm going to lose my soul.
My health.
I'm
Easier.
going to lose my health. I'm going to lose my soul. And I'm bringing this home to my family. And it's just not the right thing to do. It's not fair to them. And it's not the right thing to do.
Yeah,
So I agree with you. There comes a time when you just have to say, I have to move on. I just simply have to move on.
yeah, John, there's one thing that I just thought of while listening to you. We all talk about burnout, as obviously it's a very trendy topic, but I just thought that actually burnout is the final stop, right? When we say toxic culture, the culture doesn't have to be 100% toxic for to still to be uncomfortable. Because again, I look back at my experience. Was I ever part of a toxic culture? I don't believe so. Did I ever experience burnout? No. I working 24/7, but I loved it. I enjoyed it. So I was okay with it, the whole thing. But I just start thinking that if there is no creativity in your team, if there's no this strive for innovation, that's probably going to be the first red flag that it goes in the wrong direction, because creativity is something that is too intangible, it's too ephemeric, right? It's too elusive. What is creativity? Nobody knows. But if it's not here, I believe that probably next stop gonna be low motivation, and the next stop is gonna be disengagement, and the next stop is probably gonna be stress, and the next one burnout. Because if we miss all previous stops and start talking only about the final one, then it's too challenging to correct. If we notice, take notice of the first signs of something that is not right, then it's easier for us to get back and to fix what is not working.
It's so interesting that you brought up creativity because we're now coming to I am at least coming to the conclusion that creative opportunities is really an antidote to burnout. And whatever it is, if it's an archaeological dig in the
Mhm.
local neighborhood, one of my favorite UK programs was Time Team, and how they would go around England looking for archaeological digs in the backyards of people. It
Mhm.
was a wonderful program.
Yeah,
And or a cooking class or something creative where all of a sudden you're learning something different and you're energizing that part of the brain. I truly believe is one of the antidotes to reaching a state of burnout.
exactly.
And
Because for me, creativity, and again, I'm just thinking while you were talking, so I can build on what you've just said. For me, actually, creativity isn't about artistism, being artistic or doing innovation. It's about coming up with new solutions, coming up with challenging solutions. It's about improving something that in a way that hasn't been done all the time because it's not working. So why don't you suggest something else that would be better? That is what creativity is for me. And when it's again, when it's suffocated because people are afraid of even offering improvements, that is the red flag.
yeah, one of the foundational pieces to my leadership perspective, my theory of leadership that I've created over 30 years ago,
Mhm.
one of the founding principles of it is safety. You
Yeah,
have to be safe to
exactly.
say what you
Exactly.
want to say
Yeah.
without feeling that there will be a repercussion because, hey, you disagree with the boss. Hey, I don't know if we're going to get down. I don't know if we're going to get where you want us to get with this idea. Let me explain why. And maybe we should relook at this. So safety is so important to any workplace. But anyway, Erin, we'll leave it there for now. Listen, I can't thank you enough for being here with me today on the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. I appreciate your time and the good words. And again, you've taught me much. So I wish you the best, and I look forward to chatting with you in the future.
Thank you, John. I do feel very humble because I didn't expect to share anything that would you find remotely new or different. So thank you for giving me opportunity. And it was something that I said that you believe was worth sharing with your audience. I'm really grateful for this
Thank you
opportunity.
so very much. Take care.
Thank you, John.